God, this is nice. First round of the day, and we get to have some Cheerios for breakfast.
So Kenton, Ben Reilly, and Sky Mason, those are our heroes at 8-1 we were telling you about. Pure Steel Paladin in the middle seat. Ben Katz, Nicholas Deriu, and Alan Breitman, their opponents. Is it Delver, Amulet Titan, and Boros Feather. So now we're way around some Amulet Titan. I don't like this matchup.
No, and without something like Chalice of the Void or something to that effect, Amulet Titan's really going to have a lot of trouble here because Amulet's a deck that generally is about a turn slower than most other linear combo decks, but they're very resilient to disruption because they're a land-based strategy. But if the opponent isn't trying to disrupt them, all that means is they're a turn slower.
Yeah, they are a ramp deck at the end of the day. We start out on Amulet of Vigor from Nicholas.
Well, this is kind of the formula that lets Nicholas have a faster start. So It's not impossible that he's able to kind of build something against Benjamin from here.
Yeah, multiple amulets are the fastest draws the deck can have.
And there's even a point where having something like Gemstone Mine early implies that there's another bounce land, or that there's a bounce land coming from Deriu, which is going to give him those fast starts when paired with amulets.
So in Dariu's deck list, he actually has 3 copies of Karn the Great Creator in his amulet list with the Mycos and Thalatus package.
So if he can get that Karn onto the battlefield, that's actually a way to kind of hurt the Pure Steel deck because it turns off specifically Mox Opal, which is the way that the deck makes mana and keeps going once it starts chaining equipment through its deck.
Hallowed Fountain, Serum Visions for Ben Reilly. Now, one of the things about the Pure Steel decks, when you see a start like this, fetch for Hallowed Fountain and Serum Visions, it really disguises itself as a deck.
Right, and there's a point where the card Arid Mesa, or the fetch land Arid Mesa, would likely make me think that they are on Jeskai Control, but Jeskai Control is not Pure Steel Paladin.
Right, and Jeskai Control is not a very popular deck anymore.
Correct.
Big start from Nicholas. Celestia Sanctuary into Azusa, Lost but Seeking. He's played 1 land. That's what he's using the die to represent.
I like that.
So now he's played 2. And can have 1 more land coming if he'd like it. Gonna wait, cast Ancient Stirrings.
Likely just looking for a bounce land here before spending that 3rd land drop.
Karn the Great Creator is in the top 5.
Karn's pretty good, and this is a spot where Karn is actually pretty good against control as well, so if he doesn't want that extra bounce land, then he may consider taking it as well.
Yeah, he doesn't know what he's up against, so he is just going to take the Sanctuary to try to get his mana toward Primeval Titan, which should be ready next turn.
Right, and that's the safe play here in a situation where you don't know what you're playing against. Against something like Control, traditionally, you just want to make your land drop so you can make sure that you can cast things like Primeval Titan on time. So it's easy to see why he would choose the bounce land here.
Now the fun begins. SRAM from Ben Reilly.
Off to the races.
Sigil of Distinction. So here's how the combo works. There are 2 creatures in the deck, SRAM and Pure Steel Paladin, that whenever you cast a equipment, draw a card. And then his deck is just full of 0 mana equipment. So we see here Paradise Mantle, Sigil of Distinction for 0, and now Mox Opal with Metalcraft, and he will cast Repeal on Mox Opal. Repeal for single blue may bounce Mox Opal, and he will draw a card. So we're getting Storm because this is a Grape Shot deck at the end of the day. So we have 6 spells so far this turn. Get the Caleb Shear token out. It's been a while since we've seen this one.
Yeah, Gift Storm has kind of fallen a little bit out of favor in Modern as of late.
Yeah, Phoenix being the better Steam Vents deck.
Exactly.
So Repeal on Mox Opal. Again. That's 8 spells in the turn. 9 for Mox Opal. Repeal Mox Opal is 10. 11 is Mox Opal. Now he's hoping to find a Retract at some point here, and that is going to be it. So Retract bounces all artifacts to the that you control to its owner's hand. So deck will have no problem getting up to Storm being 20 here as he recasts the artifacts. It really is, can he find Grape Shot in time?
Right. At this point, he has the requisite storm. Well, maybe not immediately, but he effectively has the requisite storm count that he needs.
And Retract again. Yeah, right. He'll Mox Opal, Grape Shot. That's how he ends up winning. The Storm will be plenty high.
Exactly.
And yes, this is a turn 2 combo deck. It is among the fastest combo decks in Modern, offset by the fact that it is not very resilient.
Correct. Think of it this way. If in response to the first equipment, we had seen something like Lightning Bolt, Dismember, etc. from Nicholas, then Ben would have been forced to just pass the turn from there.
Right. Because Amulet as a ramp deck is not a deck that plays those kind of cards, this matchup is a nightmare.
Well, for Amulet.
Yeah. You just watch them do this, and this is a great start for Nicholas. On the play, Amulet into Azusa, into turn 3 Titan. That's an excellent draw for Nicholas. And one that's not going to compete here.
Oh, wow.
Serum Visions for Benjamin. So that means he might have missed.
He's drawn so many cards.
If he casts Serum Visions, that likely means he's running on empty. Yeah, and you see a bunch of lands in hand. That is going to be the case. So it looks like Nicholas is going to get an untap. Combo decks that are trying to be this fast oftentimes have fail rates.
Wow.
Yeah, I did not expect a brick at that point.
This is incredibly uncommon. We saw earlier Nicholas started to kind of pick up his cards on the second Retract and said, you know what?
Right.
Yeah, just play it out, I guess. And is really getting rewarded for that here.
Now, Ben topped one of the cards off his scry. There aren't too many cards you'd top there. It feels like Retract is one of them.
Right.
If he did that, it makes me think if he gets one on tap, we're done.
It's a weird spot, right? So if you're in Ben's spot, you likely top an equipment as well, because that's just
it's just a redraw.
It's
right?
a redraw, exactly.
That's
so
true.
if you're in Nicholas's seat, you got to think, well, I hope it's an equipment and the next card's a land. Maybe I get to keep going.
In fact, you probably.
Nicholas top decked
yeah.
a Karn.
Well, that's going to turn off the Mox Opal.
That turns off Grape Shot.
That's going to be a problem.
All right, so there's one Sacred Foundry in Reilly's
Yeah,
deck.
it looks like he does have the land in his deck.
But
so what Ben would have wanted to do on his turn was cast. I'm sure when he had that handful of spells, there was probably a Pure Steel Paladin in it.
Right.
He'd like to. That's how he top an equipment, cast Pure Steel Paladin, cast the equipment he topped, draw two. That helps him keep going. I don't know that he'll be able to spend his lands on Pure Steel Paladin if Karn is in play.
Exactly. There's this spot where you have a much more restricted quantity of mana when you can't. We saw that when you can't do the tricks with Mox Opal, like retract your Mox Opal, repeal your Mox Opal, etc.
Right.
Or cast more Mox Opals in order to build a sort of ritual. What time is it?
We have it's prime time. Primeval Titan, the play. Trigger gets 2 lands. If he gets 2 bounce lands, because all these extra lands from Azusa, making 4 more mana after Primeval Titan shouldn't be a problem here.
No, and checking that Azusa count over there, Nicholas still has 2 land drops. There's a lot to like here from Nicholas's side, even if this looked non-competitive just a couple of minutes ago.
Now, in the main deck for Nicholas, because he has this Karn package, he doesn't have, say, Slaughter Pact to go get, or something like that. He has 1 Pact of Negation and 1 Engineered Explosives as targets for Teleri West. Otherwise, it's lands.
So, all right, think about this line. We still have a couple of land drops. What if you Karn the Great Creator, -2, get Engineered Explosives, and then cast it on 0?
Just to blow up all the artifacts?
Yep. That turns off all the retract plays from Ben.
Well, he's going to get his free land drops here. It's going to be Boros Garrison and Slayer's Stronghold. They'll untap. He can give Primeval Titan haste. If this is Pure Steel Paladin, I like that the play from Ben would have been to block. So some of these dorky 1/0 mana equipments give creatures +0/+3. You get enough of them on the creature.
Oh, a Quarter's Shield definitely plays.
We used to have this joke when I was testing, when Pure Steel Paladin first came out. We thought, we were first thinking, is this deck broken? And then we said, well, how do we beat the mirror? And I said, okay, so here's the play. You make your Pure Steel Paladin, you dump all your equipment, put it on the Paladin, and then you Chalice on 0. And then you start attacking them.
As a matter of fact, I would love to attack with my 3/14.
My Quarter's Shield gives Vigilance too. Ooh. Right. Well,
You've sold me. The plan is in motion.
see, Cathar's Shield, yeah, so just... but then they can't play their equipment, so they just have 2/2s.
Spider
and you have
Silk
2
Neck
10s.
even protects from
It's
all
reach.
of the flyers. You can't even sideboard into like an Ink Moth Nexus plan.
It was the tech for the mirror, because main deck, because Chalice on 0 is pretty unbeatable for both sides of the table. Primeval Titan going to do some attacking. Got Simic Growth Chamber, Teleria West. 2 more land drops to come.
Players in the Modern Classic, if you are still making your way to your seat, please raise your hand.
Not enough mana. Well, interesting. I was actually going to say on Nicholas's side, if he had drawn Karn, he needs 10 mana to Karn plus Lattice. I don't think he had enough.
That seems a little tough here.
If he hadn't made Titan, I don't think he could get there. He would have needed a bounce land in his hand.
Right, there's a spot where Titan is basically a 2-mana card, but here, as long as Nicholas can survive one more turn, he has the lockout online next turn. It's happening!
All
Love
right.
it!
Engineer Explosives on 0 cleans up all the equipment. So back to Ben we go. What was the top card? We'll see soon enough. This is a beatable start, though, for Ben. Now, his top card has to be an equipment. He can cast a Pure Steel out of his hand and then start making equipment. But Mox Opal can't make mana, and this is where I think the tough spot will be, because if he starts comboing with Pure Steel Paladin and has to tap these 2 lands to cast the Paladin, how is he
can't
going to
make
get
more
2
mana.
mana for Grape Shot?
Right, and he didn't have any equipment last turn. It looks like the card he may have topped is that Pure Steel Paladin.
Cracks a fetch land. Gets Sacred Foundry. There's his red mana source.
And the awkward thing is, you could even make a spot, so he has a copy of Noxious Revival in his deck.
Okay.
So what that means is that theoretically he could, say, play a Mox Opal, Storm Count 1, another spell, any spell, Storm Count 2, Grape Shot to destroy Karn, and then if he can combo from there, that unlocks the Mox Opal.
So how does he get that many spells, though?
He only needs to cast the Mox Opal as spell 1,
Okay.
then any 0-drop artifact, a Serum Visions, etc. as
Yeah.
spell 2, the Grape Shot is the 3rd spell.
It
But
works.
that does not
But
mean
he didn't
he gets
have
to
those.
cast the Pure Steel Paladin.
Right, but the issue is that he didn't have any 0 mana artifacts in his hand to start this turn, right?
He may have had Mox Opal, so if he has multiple Mox
Okay.
Opals and didn't have a 1-drop last turn to use it on them, then he didn't want to just Legend Rule his Mox Opals for no reason.
He could chain them in each other. So Cathar's Shield, the play. He draws. I think
Okay.
that might be the end.
Mox Opal Grape Shot does it from here.
He can't. Yeah, he really can't tap too low. Here's Serum Visions. Serum Visions Grape Shot technically does it, but he needs that Grape Shot in his hand. Top, bottom off Serum Visions. Did we get there? And here's Grape Shot. Okay, we're still going.
So the awkward thing is, even destroying this Karn, Ben still has to win the game this turn because now he's facing down a Primeval Titan.
Right. So he decides to go through 2 more equipment. So now Storm is at 5. 5 and 3 aren't very different here. So Grape Shot, killing Karn, and he looks like he's going to pick off Azusa while he's at it. It doesn't really matter.
No.
Titan will win.
Exactly.
Pretty easily. It attacks, gets Sun home, gives itself double strike.
Correct.
So the Great Creator is gone. I believe, yeah, that's gone. 2 damage upstairs. Okay, Mox Opal. We are still going, but... And retract. So
Okay.
the advantage is that Ben could not make the Pure Steel in his hand, and I don't think he'll be able to. Now, has Nicholas picked up Pact of Negation? If he had found one off a Transmute, a Pact right there would have won the game.
Absolutely. And, you know, there's even a spot where Reilly's fail rate from here is still pretty high with all those equipments in the graveyard now.
Here we go. Storm building up. Storm up to 10. Storm up to 11. He might have this.
He still needs to find a Noxious Revival and 2 Mox Opals.
13. 14. This deck's great.
He only has 1 Retract left.
15. He just keeps playing the card he draws. 16. Did he do it? Did he do it? Did he find Noxious? He needs Noxious. Oh!
Wow. Wow.
Where I was, and Nicholas Deriu takes game 1. Gets a little fist bump there from his teammate. Right now carrying the team, both his teammates have dropped game 1.
Honestly, that kind of feels like what that game feels like what Modern is all
Right
about
there,
right
right.
now.
Modern is on turn 2, I flip cards off the top of my deck and hope my opponent dies.
Well, so, you know, we like to joke about it, but they're both very powerful decks. They both interacted with 1 or 2 pieces of what the opponent was doing, technically.
this right here, this deck of 0 mana nonsense. This is what Modern's all about.
Right. But they're both very linear decks with 1 or 2 pieces of interaction that otherwise are just trying to go over the top of everything else or outspeed other decks.
So, you mentioned some upgrades to Pure Steel Paladin, which I really believe, as I said before, with London Mulligan was the biggest upgrade the deck could get. But on top of that, there actually are some new cards. Eladamri's Call. It's 1 in the main and 2 in the sideboard. Again, if your deck revolves around having a creature, might as well make sure you get it in your hand.
Right, and you're generally going to like things like Eladamri's Call against the more interactive decks where you just need to virtually increase the number of Pure Steel Paladin, SRAM, etc. that you have in your deck.
And this isn't it.
No, I don't think this is the matchup where you're going to want something like that. We might see something to the effect of Silence or Path to Exile in the matchup, with the big things there, or the thoughts there being that you can just interact with what the opponent is doing a little bit. For the most part, Pure Steel Paladin here is probably just trying to execute its own game plan faster than the Amulet deck can execute it.
Which, as we saw, unless the fail rate comes in, and it exists,
We saw it there twice.
He should be able to do it.
Right.
So, sideboarding then from Ben Reilly, or not, yeah, from Ben Reilly. I don't know that he wants to board anything.
Yeah, again, maybe Silence because it's good against things like Summoner's Pact, but other than that, not great. Path to Exile, something that can tag a Titan, but...
It's such a tempo play against Summoner's Pact. It's unreasonable.
Oh, it's so reasonable. It's 2 time walks.
Yeah. Well, especially if the Amulet player has used a bounce land and like untapped it with Amulet to get to 6 mana. When they cast the Pact, then you lose. You know, bounce Sanctuary, bounce Sanctuary, bounce Sanctuary, 6 mana floating, Pact, Silence. Unpacked.
I would like to clarify that you have a Gemstone Mine and a Simic Growth Chamber, correct? Yeah? All right,
yes.
Silence.
It's
Good
something
game,
a very
gamer.
seasoned Amulet Titan player would know that interaction because Silence is a staple of Pure Steel sideboards. However, no, it is. But
I agree that it is a staple in Pure Steel sideboards.
But the thing is that in order to play this matchup enough to know that he might cheese your Summoner's Packs with Silence, you need 500 matches because you only get paired up against this 1 out of 200 times.
Bold of you to assume that you'd see Silence in 500 matches.
Right, I mean, you might not even see it. He could catch him with a Silence on a pack. It's there.
I completely agree.
Sideboard from Deriu. Some negates. I like these 2 paths to exile. I gotta kill SRAM or Pure Steel Paladin.
So one of the big things that I like about Nicholas's sideboard is it is not completely dominated by Karn the Great Creator.
Right.
One of the things that I think is a bit of a trap that we'll see players fall into is dedicating 10 or 11 sideboard slots to this sort of, we'll say, wish board, for to stick to the classic term, for that Karn package, when some decks, like what Nicholas has here, are a little bit more realistic and just say, you know what, I think I really just want the Lattice Lock and then 3, maybe 4 other cards to get. And I think that's quite attractive here. But as far as things to bring in, Path to Exile is the biggest thing that he's looking at. And maybe Reclamation Sage if you want something else. For the most part, though, his deck's going to be staying the same.
Big thank you to our sponsor here on the SCG Tour, and for the chairs you see in the feature match area, that is Carnox. They've got your back. You can get 10% at checkout when you visit Carnox.com using our promo code /SCG.
Have we thought about a way to make a Karn pun out of Carnox? I can't be
I don't
the
think
only
there
one
can
who's
be.
thought of this.
Carnox, the great chair creator.
Off it.
It's very accurate, though.
It's a good one. It's a good one.
They created all the chairs you see here on the broadcast.
Carnox, liberate your back pain.
Ooh, I like that.
Someone hire me.
Hallowed Fountain for Reilly. The scariest thing about Amulet is when you know you're playing this matchup and you're like, Ancient Strings go! I hope I get another turn.
Well, I will cast my cantrip.
Do you know that for a while I had a testing team of pros and we were working on developing the Pure Steel Paladin deck? I just want to tell you the threads on this were nice. Okay.
Look, they had such hits as, here's the Mirror Breaker.
Look, for a while there was a large debate over whether or not Pentad Prism was great or bad in the deck.
I completely believe that.
I was on the pro Pentad Prism side. I'm ready to still debate it for the 0 people out there that care.
The 3 Ps of protesting. Pro Pentad Prism.
So while we do this thing where we play 0-man artifacts, see, I'm going to give you my sales pitch on it.
All right.
All right, so this can be your best turn 2 play, but you'd actually, turn 2 is faster than you need. A turn 3 win generally works here. So if you just go turn 2 Pentad Prism and start this on turn 3, then when you draw mid-combo a Pure Steel, you can cash in, play it, and keep going, and your fail rate's way lower.
Speaking of fail rate...
See, if only I had Pentad Prism, this would all be okay.
What if I told you drawing Pentad Prisms mid-combo may also increase the fail rate?
They're mana neutral.
They are... That is true.
See, if they're holding up a lightning bolt, you just put a bunch of mana in Pentad Prisms, and you make like 3 paladins on one turn, and they can't bolt them all.
Ooh, rate this turn 2 from Amulet.
So we have Vasuva. Go. I think we could do more.
Kind of makes you wonder what 7 Nicholas kept.
And Mox Opal means that Repeal bounces one of the equipments. I believe the Accorder's Shield on end step. Now here's the danger. If Ben untaps and makes another, well, it'd have to be Pure Steel. SRAM is legendary. But if he makes a Pure Steel Paladin here, we got some danger. That just draws Spider Silk Net.
Well, that draws another card.
Sure does. Pure Steel Paladin. And now the fail rate is so much lower. 2 creatures means each equipment draws 2 cards.
If I had to describe what time of day it is, I'm pretty sure go time is the first thing that comes to mind.
This deck's always go time. It's like one of those clocks where every hand points at the same thing.
Look at this tech. Building mana.
Yeah, now the Pure Steel Paladin has Metalcraft. Equipment can be equipped for free. Now you can put the Paradise Mantle on SRAM. It's very hard to fail here.
SRAM's able, it's just a mana creature now. This is so nice.
He needs to be putting those equipment on things. I like putting the 0.
Well, how about that?
There we go. I like that even the Sigil of Distinctions with 0 counters. Pick those up too.
I like.
Just button them on.
I just really like SRAM sitting on his throne of equipment.
Sigil actually gives +1/+1 for each charge counter on it. That's nice. Of which there are none. It's okay. SRAM picks it up anyway. He is the master edificer.
Ooh.
Or the senior edificer. He's not the master. He's just the most experienced edificer.
I was about to say old. That's kind of rude. He doesn't even have any gray in his beard. Well, are they? I don't think it's a beard. I think they might actually just be lamb chops.
I guess he's had just the most time with the company.
Ooh, 2 retracts off of those draws.
This is done. Okay, we'll call it. Well, let's see. Okay, so retract means you pick up all these. This one we could actually call. So he's got, see this stack of cards in his hand. They're roughly the size of half his deck. It's just going to get bigger. More things. 0 mana draw 2. It's like the card Bill from Pokemon. His deck's just full of those.
Ooh, that's a callback.
It's a good card.
That is a very good card.
You know, I have one in one of the cubes I own.
You have a Bill?
Yeah, there's a Bill in it.
Is it called Divination?
No. It's just actually the card Bill.
Oh.
You can draft it.
What?
It's really good.
What phase can you play trainer cards in Magic?
Well, you can play 1 per turn.
What? Is it a supporter?
Well, you can play. Well, you only have the 1 Bill, but then we had questions of like, can you mnemonic wall back Bill? And I'm like, is the Bill an instant or sorcery? I'm like, no, it's a trainer, so you can't.
Do you have any other Pokemon cards? Maybe
Well,
Professor Oak?
Professor Oak's pretty good. No one's added Professor Oak to the cube yet.
It's your cube, isn't it?
Well,
You have that power.
you get points as you play, and they allow you to edit the cube. So you can. So you know what happened is someone won some matches, and they decided to put Bill into the cube.
That's awesome. Who did that?
I
Can we give him a shout out? Is that just a thing we can do?
We have Grape Shot. Here's
Oh,
a
the
shout
match
out.
is
Here's a
over.
shout out.
Our game is over.
Grape Shot for 24.
The only thing more busted than Bill is a grape shot for 20 plus.
Would you rather draft if Bill and Pot of Greed were in the same pack? Which
Pot
one
of
are you?
Greed.
Okay, that wasn't even close.
No. That
So
card's
they're
a
going to game 3.
Pot of Greed's a spell.
But what type of spell?
Oh wait, actually, no, it's literally a spell card.
Okay,
I guess actually I want Bill because Bill's kind of uncounterable.
Bill's uncommon. Bill's just a trainer. But if Pot of Greed is a spell card, it would trigger.
That's-
It would. Right. It's not a creature. It's a spell, and it's
It
not a
is a
creature. So it would make a token off Young Pyromancer
Well, the problem is your opponent can counter Pot of Greed.
if they have a negate.
Well, it just says
Yeah,
target.
'cause it's spell.
Well, no, it not negate because it's not an instant or
Negate's non-creature.
It's a non-creature. You're right, but you could like cancel or force of will.
Right. You definitely can't counter. You can't even like cancel Bill because Bill's not a spell. It's a
Exactly.
trainer.
So maybe I think Bill's more powerful, but something about the fact that Pot of Greed is a different size than the rest of the cards.
That's gonna make. There's some dexterity opportunities here.
I think my opponent would cut to it more. So I think there's a line in a casual setting where there's probably a slight advantage for that. I don't really like operating, or I don't
All
like
right.
thinking about this, but
Tweet us. What are the best non-magic cards you can add to your Magic cube?
painful choice from Yu-Gi-Oh! Easy, snap it off. Search your deck for 5 cards with different names. Your opponent puts 1 in your hand and the rest in your graveyard.
What's the Pokemon one that lets you discard a card to Demonic Tutor?
It's computer search, and you have to discard 2 cards.
Okay, but as long as I'm
Right.
getting Professor Oak, it's pretty good. Then I can get around the card disadvantage.
If you have Professor Oak in your deck, yeah.
Okay. I feel like you could build a nice combo deck here.
What if we talked about Magic?
All right, so they're going to Game 3. We have a pair of Game 3s on the way, Modern and Standard heading to it, on the Legacy table. And this is what you're saying. Kenton has just broken it here with Bomberman. And I suspect that we'll talk with the team afterward, but I'm really interested in his record. He's already won 2-0. That deck might be the reason this team is in day 2.
Yeah, it's so fast. And see, the combo, Auriok Salvagers, it has an ability, 2 mana, a white and a colorless, return target artifact with converted mana cost 1 or less from your graveyard to your hand. When you have a Lion's Eye Diamond, that just lets you make infinite mana because you discard your hand, get back the Lion's Eye Diamond, so on. And from there, if you have any other artifact in your graveyard that could kill your opponent, you just, or anything that can kill them with infinite mana, say a Pyrite Spellbomb, for example, you just win the game on the spot. Or if you have something like a Karn the Great Creator on the battlefield already, you just get to go off.
Star City Games newsletter, if you want to hear about the most recent tech from our events, perhaps a Bomberman deck making day 2 of the team event. I don't know. Someone might have something to say about that. You can get it for free delivered to your inbox every week from Star City Games. You also get highlights from our strategy articles. You can learn where the next SCG Tour and IQ are near you. So sign up for free, starcitygames.com/newsletter. Those not familiar, Bomberman is the Auriok Salvagers Lion's Eye Diamond combo. This team is at one of our 4 teams at 8-1. If they pick up the win, I imagine we'll get a chance later in the day to see Bomberman on camera.
Ooh. Don't get me so excited. I feel bad because I even like Is It Delver a lot. That is one of my favorites, but what do you do? Say no to Auriok Salvagers? Your 8 basic planes combo stratagem?
I like that they're just playing mono-white combo decks in 2 different formats.
Well,
I mean,
Scapeshift technically has white cards.
I love that they're playing all these combo decks. I'm really mixed. I love that they're double combo decks in Legacy and Modern. That they both are combo decks full of planes is like a minus. And so I feel torn.
If it makes you feel any better, I bet Banned Scapeshift has 1 or less planes. Because that deck needs a ton of different land names for Field of the Dead. So I imagine it's something to the effect of 1 Bant Guild, or 1 Azorius Guild Gate, 1 Simic Guild Gate, 1 Selesnya Guild Gate, 1 Woodland Stream, etc. Oh, this is not a Scapeshift hand that Nicholas is excited about.
Game 3, Nicholas back on the play.
It appears that Reilly's pretty happy with his hand.
Yeah. So the interesting thing about Pure Steel, we looked at that in Game 2, is that it is a deck that can win on turn 2. Its turn 2 fail rate is actually pretty high, but fortunately you oftentimes don't need to win on turn 2. So some of the big decisions, like last game with Ben Reilly, turn 2 made SRAM, you saw him start cashing in those zeros. Sometimes that's the wrong strategic choice. Sometimes you're supposed to just play the creature, especially if you have a second one in your hand, and say go.
Right. And there are sometimes, it's close because there are really only a few kinds of cards in the deck, and that's what makes it so close. Is you have your creatures, lands, and then things that effectively cycle, and then 5-ish cards dedicated to actually killing your opponent. So you end up in these positions where you have to try and figure out if you want to cash in your 0-drops for redundancy, if you want more Pure Steel Paladins in your hand, for example, or if you want to just play your 2-drop, pass turn, and hold. And that's going to come down to the texture of the matchup a good chunk of the time.
Every time I watch this deck, it makes me want to play it again.
Yeah,
it's so much fun.
That checks out.
Here's Serum Visions from Ben. I'm putting in Pentad Prisms, though.
What about Bill?
I'll play that, too. But I can only have 3 of him in my deck.
What? Why?
I can only have 3 of the same trainer card. Isn't it a 3 of?
No, that's Yu-Gi-Oh!
Oh, no. It's 4. Oh, wait, that's Yu-Gi-Oh!
Yeah, Pokemon's full playsets.
Pokemon's 4.
They were both originally WotC
I'm mixing up my games.
Wow.
My decks need to... Hold on. Gotta go add 1x Bill to some decks. You can't chain Bill into Bill, though.
Back in the day you could, but you can't anymore because they realized how broken that was.
I could only play 1 Bill per turn.
You would have so many decks where their turn 1 was play a bunch of trainer cards,
win.
Set up a Slow King lock where your opponent's not allowed to play trainer cards. Nice try, thanks for coming and playing the game.
Was there like some combo deck where you just made a Blastoise on the first turn?
Yeah, Rain Dance.
Yeah, that's a nice one.
Yeah, that was a good one. I was partial. Oh, I liked a deck you would have liked. It was I played no energies, and
Yeah.
it made your opponent draw all 60 cards in their deck the
Ooh,
hard way.
I'm into this.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It was a good one.
Yeah, the Blastoise deck was another dump your whole deck onto the board on the first turn, make a thing, hope it works.
Yeah, it was nice. I let you play as many energies as you want in one turn. So imagine Fast Bond on an already popular Pokemon.
Pokemon had some balance issues at first.
I mean, it was mid '90s Wizards of the Coast. They were still ironing things out.
I remember the first time I learned the game, staying with some of my younger cousins, and they were collecting Pokemon cards, and they were like, let's teach you how to play this game. And I was already playing Magic at the time. And I saw Professor Oak, and I was like, ooh. So how many of these can we put in our deck? And they're like, oh, well, I have one. It's like, no, how many am I allowed to? Oh, 4? It's like, okay, we're going to go put 4 in every deck we own. Just all of them. They're like, what if you draw your cards, you lose? That's fine. That's fine.
All right.
Here we go, SRAM. Now we are online.
In the words of Flight of the Conchords, it's business time.
Oh, now that that's in play. I love Flight of the Conchords. It's great.
I only know like 2 songs of theirs.
Three equipment. Draw cards from Ben Reilly. Passes back. We get turn 3 from Nicholas. If he'd like to do something impactful here because you don't want to give Reilly the untap.
Yeah, you end up in this really interesting spot with the Pure Steel deck where, you described before maybe wanting to wait until the 3rd turn, but when your opponent has an Amulet of Vigor and is about to make their 3rd land drop, especially when they're a Karn the Great Creator deck, you might just be, you're kind of forced to maybe go for it if you can, because there's a not zero chance your Mox Opals just gets turned off next turn.
Well, removal-wise, from Amulet Titan, again, especially because he has this Karn sideboard, he doesn't even have something like Kozilek's Return, or I think traditionally you'd see a stack of Abrades in the deck. He has these 2 copies of Path to Exile, and that's it for ways to answer SRAM. Amulet Titan is a good turn, if not 2 turns slower than Pure Steel Paladin.
Correct.
Yeah, if the game's all about combo racing, Pure Steel is the fastest deck in Modern. I think I can just say that.
Neo Brand.
It's close. Like this one on the play turn 2 is a lot.
Oh, that's true. I'm just saying anything playing Chancellor of the Tangle is not looking
gives
to
it a
play
run for its money.
Second turn of Magic.
Yeah. As a result, Pure Steel Paladin gets some really skewed matchups. We see Karn the Great Creator from Nicholas.
Oh, do you think we see a roll-up on this Paradise Mantle?
I think so. Karn the Great Creator plus. Till next turn, target non-creature artifact becomes an artifact with power and toughness equal to its converted mana cost, so that would make it a 0/0. Paradise Mantle, the only one of these that matters. It's one you probably get rid of. But talking about matchups, boom! Yeah, so Pure Steel tends to be good in combo mirrors, right? Like its Infect matchup's actually pretty reasonable.
Mm-hmm.
Its Amulet Titan matchup's reasonable. It has some great ones. Its Scape Shift matchup is great. Its matchup against Jeskai is really bad.
Yeah, they have 3 interactive spells.
Got some bolts and paths, Beats. SRAM attacks. Plant token blocks.
Jeremy Knoll thrown under the bus.
I don't know. People ask to be plant tokens, and for me, it's just asking for trouble.
Oh, I mean,
those things don't stay around.
Look, you just want to show up sometimes. That's okay.
All right, post combat. Can Ben do more? No, he passes. Wonder what hand we're looking at. He's got Echoing Truth. He does not have green mana up, so no Eladamri's Call.
It may just be a spot where he wants to hold up. Let's see if he has something negate maybe out of his sideboard.
He has Echoing Truth.
We might have Silence or
Silence
Path
and Path, yeah. Now, if Karn's going to get Mycosynth Lattice, he's going to have to Silence in response to the Karn minus. I guess there's not, maybe he can't get to 6 mana in time, not without a Zusa or something like that.
Right, I believe there's a Summoner's Pact hanging out in Nicholas's hand, which could theoretically become 6 mana if there's a bounce land as well.
All right. Plant token remade. Karn, -2. Options. We look at the wish board. Mycosynth Lattice, Crucible of Worlds, Engineered Explosives, Pithing Needle, Termod's Crypt, Walking Ballista, Wormcoil Engine. It's going to be Walking Ballista. And like this here, for 4 mana, let's shoot down the SRAM.
Okay, so Reilly actually has some play here because he held up this Echoing Truth. He can just bounce Karn, the Great Creator.
Right.
The turn he wants to go off, and then try to go the following turn.
This is actually a situation where the SRAM and Pure Steel were different cards. If that was a Pure Steel Paladin, it would have picked up all the equipment, a Quarter Shield would have made it a 2/5, and Walking Ballista would not have been able to remove it.
Correct.
Yeah, I see Echoing Truth from Ben Reilly, bounces Karn the Great Creator.
All right, Ben, it's go time.
Yeah, you don't want to give another turn here. Primeval Titan will be on the battlefield if you do.
Right, there's only one more Echoing Truth in Reilly's deck, and that's basically it for answers to this Karn once it comes into play again.
Don't know that there's 6 mana, but all it would take is a bounce land to make Titan. Back to Reilly we go. Looks like he has some number of repeals. Noxious Revival, and here, end step, going to put a fetch land back on top of his deck. So mana appears to be the choking point.
Interesting.
Seeing what he's building up toward. Another Hallowed Fountain. Maybe he needs the blue mana for a Retract mid-combo. It's not terrible. With Pure Steel, you actually fetch before a combo turn because thinning the deck does matter.
Oh yeah, when you draw that many cards in a single turn, those numbers add up quickly.
Pure Steel Paladin, repeal on Sigil of Distinction. Storm is at 2. This feels like a more desperate combo start than I would like.
Right. Do you think Nicholas may have a Force of Vigor?
Force
that may
of
be the
Vigor
thing here that would just kind of stop Ben in his tracks.
If it's not your turn, you may exile a green card from your hand rather than pay it, destroy up to 2 artifacts or enchantments. And I don't think he has it. It would probably would have seen it right there.
Right, I agree.
So, recast Sigil, draws a card, and that might be the end. Yeah, it looks like the hand for Ben Reilly is another Pure Steel, a Retract, maybe 2 Retracts. And we'll see the damage that's going to be done. Oof. Here comes, it's likely Primeval Titan. I think from Ben, you also really wish he'd had a 3rd artifact, at least to protect this Pure Steel.
Right, not being able to move that a Quarter Shield over could end up being a pretty large liability.
Ben looks over at the board again. He does not have another Walking Ballista in the board. In fact, his 1 Ballista is just in the sideboard. He does not have one in the main either.
Interesting. That means that he's not able to use Teleria West or something to that effect to tutor up a burn spell in the later turns of the game.
Yeah. Really showing that Celestial Colonnade decks have fallen out of favor. That was your go-to strategy. Instead, he has the 1 Hornet Queen in the main today.
Sure. That makes a lot of sense. That's going to be a bit better against just the creature decks.
Yeah, it's better against the black-green mid-range decks and worse against the blue-white mid-range decks.
Correct.
Teleria West from Ben. So only 5 mana, no Primeval Titan. Looks like it's just going to be Karn. 3 Summoner's Packs in hand for Nicholas. Bit heavy on that effect. Karn, plus, gets rid of a Quarter's Shield. Says go. This is an extra turn for Ben. Six minutes remaining here for this match. 2nd Pure Steel for Ben Reilly. Can he do it? He has Paradise Mantle.
So he needs to find a way to get this Karn off the battlefield before he can use any kind of Mox Opal effect.
Right now, technically, Emma, right, he doesn't need it. If he draws his whole deck, can chain through his whole deck, and then just find the Sacred Foundry, he can just Grape Shot the natural way.
That's true.
Looks like now he can't, though. He had to use Hallowed Fountain to bounce Paradise Mantle. So I believe now he needs to get rid of Karn. But
Right.
how does he make 2
Yeah,
mana?
I don't. The problem before was the way that he was able to deal with Karn was also the way that he could kill his opponent.
Yeah, he can draw these cards. I don't see offhand how he can do it.
So I guess theoretically, the thought here is that if your opponent goes for a Lattice Lock, you can still attack Karn down.
If he has Silence in his deck, he could draw to Silence, play a Plains, say go, and just silence Nicholas on the upkeep. Untap
Right.
and do it again.
Okay, that's very, very doable. You don't want to end up using too much of your Storm here. Is Puresteel Paladin a May? Because there's a
Yeah,
point
Pure Steel's a May. You don't have,
Steel's a May. I
but
know
SRAM is not.
Right. I knew one of them was not. So there's a point where if you draw too much of your deck, you might just be stuck and not able
Right,
to
you can't storm
out.
high enough. Yeah, Pure Steel's a May, so you can draw your whole deck, retract all the artifacts, just cast them, retract, cast them, Grape Shot. It's fine.
Right.
Don't want to play SRAM, ever put SRAM into play if you're planning to do that. Pure Steel Paladin gonna attack, gets blocked. Yeah, he does need the silence though, because if Karn goes and grabs Mycosynth Lattice, we're done.
Mm-hmm. And you know, Reilly is not at a very high life total. So there's even a point where there are some lines with Primeval Titan that get there. I
Yeah,
guess having the Slayer Stronghold on the battlefield's a bit of a problem, but Nicholas does have a Vasuva.
right. And because of Karn, you can't move those equipment onto Pure Steel Paladin. And Nicholas's hand, 3 Summoner's Packs, some lands. So does he want Lattice or Pact? He has a decision to make here. I want to talk about some of the Echoing Truth out of the sideboard. Another card sometimes we see out of Pure Steel Paladin is the card Void Snare. It's a 1-mana sorcery version.
Ooh.
That just bounces a non-land permanent.
Right.
Sometimes you'll see that card, and that's a card that could have helped him out in this situation.
Yeah, having a 1-mana way to get Karn off the battlefield would have been colossal.
And Primeval Titan. Looks like we see some handshakes. I believe the standard match Sky Mason picking up the W. We're going to finish this one out, see what happens here. Primeval Titan into play. Looks like they're showing hands here. See if they're going to finish it out. 2 bounce lands, untap, bounce some things. It's the question whether or not Karn can go get Lattice. It feels like Amulet's got it.
Yeah, it feels like Amulet's more or less locked the game out at that point.
Right.